I got laid off from my job back in 2009, and I went from having an amazing job and career in architecture to literally throwing newspapers, being on government assistance with 3 small kids. And I just remember there night after night looking at the ceiling and wondering, how did I get here? I went to college, I got the degree, I got the professional education as an architect, and here I was, not even being able to provide for my family. For me, business was the thing in my life that caused me to want to grow. And then as the business began to grow, as I began to have financial success and the business started to get its legs, suddenly all that energy that I'd put into the business, it started to shift towards my marriage. And this is when I began to realize that the marriage wasn't where I wanted it to be. I remember an argument that my wife and I got in, and I can still see her sitting there across the bed from me, and tears are streaming down her face. Her face is red, and I want to reach her. I want to be able to connect with her, but I'm sitting there and I'm feeling literally nothing. As we're sitting there and she's telling me she can't feel me, I look inside my heart and I'm like, I can't feel myself either. I feel like an observer here. I feel like there's something wrong. I feel like there should be some emotion inside. There should be something inside of me when my beautiful, amazing partner is asking for me, and I feel almost nothing inside. I had success, but at the end of the day, I was unfulfilled, and I just didn't know how to break out of it. I tried therapy, spent $15,000 plus on marriage therapy. Went to all sorts of business seminars, trainings, books, listened to audio tapes, going to in-person workshops and experiences, and they all worked to a certain degree. But I was sitting down in a business roundtable with a bunch of guys, and I asked them, do they have any suggestions for how I could unlock my emotions? And one of the guys, the business mentor, he leans over and he comes close and he says, well, I have something that could help. Do you want the quick way or the slow way? And being a type A personality, I said, well, give me the fast way. And he said, plant medicine. This film does not advocate that plant medicines, such as ayahuasca, should be used indiscriminately. If you feel called to this healing path, consider that these experiences can be effective and profound when supported by trained professionals. As a Latter-day Saint, we're like, wait, a feeling told you to go take some drugs? What's up? That must have been the devil. That must have been Satan. You're deceived. I had all these voices in my head saying this can't be, but I just said, you know what? I feel calm about this. I feel like I'm being pulled in this direction. I'm going to suspend my disbelief. If you're just depending on everyone else's opinion, everyone else's testimonies, what everyone else is thinking, you're going to run up against a wall.
To misunderstand these plant medicines as drugs is a misunderstanding over misuse for the wrong purposes.
The one compass that you have to be able to follow with exactness is your own internal compass. You've got to be able to dial in to what's right for you.
We're a lineage of what they call medicine men or medicine women, and we practice the healing arts. We build alliances with medicinal healing spirits to help others to heal and to fulfill their intentions in our ceremonies.
It was like a part of me woke up and said, oh yeah, I remember what I am, I remember why I'm here, and I remember what this is all about.
I think it's really important to understand that if you have a strong religious conviction and you've been part of a religion and you feel called to it, but you also have certain conflicts within yourself, that we can help align you with your religion and help align you with your beliefs and really bring them to life.
This documentary that Enoch's making, I know it's made with the best intentions, and it's only meant to come from a place of love and to serve and to open up an awareness of medicine and healing and love and transformation for people who need it. And I wish Enoch nothing but the best in this documentary, and I certainly hope it's well received.
He's on a very interesting journey, and I commend him for it.
I literally measure my life before my first plant medicine experience and after my first plant medicine experience. It was that transformational. When I tell people ayahuasca, they give me the strange look. They're like, most people haven't heard about it. And I know what they're thinking is like, why would you do something like that? Is this really safe? And if I could respond to them, I would say, ayahuasca is not safe. Like, you don't go to an experience like ayahuasca because you're most concerned about safety, right? You have higher values that you're searching for. You're searching for personal discovery. You're willing to sacrifice a little discomfort. Now, it doesn't mean you want to go into something that's super risky or something that's going to hurt you, but you're not going there to be safe. No one comes to the jungle because they want to be safe.
The most beautiful experiences are actually really common. It's when people have an experience that's new and for the first time, that's incredible. And the most common one is having direct spiritual communion. And then there are amazing mental health stories that come out of this. People that are in distress or have different kinds of trauma that through a series of ceremonies transcend that and really get clear in their lives.
Coming into this, I had depression and I had suicidal ideations. I wanted to die just because I was not happy and I didn't want to be miserable anymore and hurt anymore. And these different plant medicines activate something within ourselves that turns on what's described as a visionary state, where you see and perceive things that you don't normally perceive. You become much more sensitive to them. I was having this experience that I was being lowered into a coffin, like I was being buried and I was dying and I was going to be dead once I was at the bottom of it. And when I was being lowered down into the coffin, it was then I knew I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to be hurting anymore. And in that moment, a golden rope came down and dropped down from the top of the coffin, and on the other end of the rope, it was Christ with the rope, and like leading me to like basically like save me. So I grabbed the rope and he pulled me out, and immediately I had this huge heart opening where my heart opened like completely, and just boundless, endless love spilled out and poured out of my chest and through my body, and then throughout into the room, and then into the forest, and then across the planet into the infinite universe. And then that was my first introduction with Christ. And then from there, I built a relationship with Christ. And Christ to me symbolizes love, truth and the pursuit of truth, and community and caring for one another. And to this day, I have a very strong bond with Christ and call him into ceremony to help teach forgiveness and to teach truth and receive the blessings of truth and forgiveness.
Then there are the people that need to make significant decisions in their life, and they're blocked or stuck on how to be able to make those decisions. And they get clear guidance. And in most of the cases I've ever heard, those decisions turn out to be really positive. And then there are the experiences that are supernatural in their own right. And they're hard to talk about, but they are miraculous. And it's miraculous transformations. Like, there's a gentleman with us this week that has had curvature to his fingers and has been unable to straighten out his hand. And after one ceremony, for the first time in many, many, many years, he was able to straighten his fingers.
As we were approaching the airport to land in Iquitos, I was looking out the window, seeing the Amazon jungle, seeing the clouds, and just feeling this deep kind of peace, this deep respect for the beauty of this area. And then we get into Iquitos, and there's the hustle and the bustle, there's people, there's moto taxis going back and forth. We pass what looked like a Latter-day Saint Stake Center, so there's this beautiful LDS church building.
It's a magical place, you know? It's in the middle of the Amazon, which a lot of people consider to be the lungs of the world.
Not like there's any rain around, but there's enough moisture in the air that there was just a standing rainbow just chilling off over the Amazon. There's like literally trees and flowers and stuff like growing from all the buildings around here because it's so temperate and moist, and it's beautiful.
Everyone here on the planet, we're all having different experiences. They're all beautiful, they're all different. Going into this experience, being accompanied by my brother, having Ramiro here, just brought me like this sense, like this very, very peaceful feeling of gratitude, of happiness, of just being blessed.
The one thing that I would love about Enoch is just how much work he's put into himself. I think that's awesome, and I love that. I love that about him.
Some of the tactics that he uses, it pushes us out of the comfort zone. Some people can take it the wrong way, which one of those people are me. The first time it happened, I didn't appreciate some of the pushiness. some of the excessive questions that I thought they were excessive. But I think what his goal was to dig deep down, and make sure he extracts the best out of you. So his best tactic for me is really that. Get really, really deep into your persona, who you are, and bring out the best. And he does a really good job in that.
There was a couple intentions that I had coming into this retreat. One of the things in the past that's been so difficult for me is a huge resistance to life, like a huge feeling of why am I here? What am I doing? I don't like it here. I suffer a lot. It feels like there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of upset. It feels lonely. It feels like I don't really understand what my purpose is. What am I doing here? And I've carried these feelings around for so long. It's difficult to be in a world where you feel like people criticize you, or people don't get you, or people don't understand you. And so there's just deep existential loneliness at the core of my soul. How can I learn to become the best version of myself so that I can be of the best service to my community, number one? There was a couple sub-intentions after that. One of them was, I've never really felt very comfortable in my skin. For instance, in social situations or sitting around with other people, I'm always a little anxious inside, a little nervous, not really being able to be fully present with them. And so part of it was like, I would love to be able to be freed of that, to be able to sit, talk with someone, and have my humorous side brought out. I've lived as a pretty serious guy, and I want to bring out some more fun into my life, just the more jovial side of Enoch that I'm not really in touch with.
I've been really blessed, with many things. My wife's a great supporter. I think we're trying to do our best, especially the kids. The company is, we're supposed to be. We're doing good. We get along. We got good projects. I think my biggest challenge now is balancing all those things. Where I feel like I'm not neglecting my children by doing a lot of work. I'm giving my wife the time that she deserves in terms of my presence there, not just the monetary, presence, but me being there. But at the same time, I have a full team at the office that I care for every single one of them. So I think my biggest challenge is doing all that and not forget about myself.
Romero is extremely intelligent, he's highly capable, and I've been able to see this amazing growth that he's had in the time that he's been coaching with us. I'm a big believer that our souls communicate to us, and so I'm like, there's something in Romero's soul that wants him to go to Peru, and if I can make it safe for him by going myself and being with him, I'm going to do that.
So it might be a little bit dark, but I've definitely had some suicidal thoughts and trying to figure out why is it worth living life.
In the past, when I've tried to converse with Ezra, it's like one-word sentences. When you're talking to him on the phone, hey, how's it going? It's like, fine, good. When my mom had her mental issues and she ended up taking her life, family life started to go really south. There was so much insanity happening in the family around him. It just became very quiet. So it's sort of like the personality of Ezra feels like it got a bit locked away when he was very, very young.
I was married. She has remarried and they've moved to Norway with my blessing they asked. And I was all for them getting out of the United States and being raised in a different country, a better country, in my opinion.
About when the divorce happened, I realized, I'm like, you know what? Ezra's going through this really tough time with his divorce, and I didn't feel like I had created a relationship with him where he could trust me as his brother. And I felt bad about that, because I'm like, you have to show people love over time so that when they get into challenging times, they trust you and they reach out to you. And I wasn't that for my brother Ezra, so I'm like, damn, okay, I messed up, that's what it is. But I'm like, from now forward, let's keep in touch with Ezra. Let's nurture that, because I may need his help. He may need my help.
When you come from a culture that prohibits a certain kind of activity, I think you have to look at the framing of that activity and see whether or not what you're going to do falls within or outside. And in the case of Amazonian plant medicine, it's culturally considered a medicine. And so I think you have to ask yourself, are medicines allowed within my culture? And the people who administer those medicines within the traditional cultures here go through extensive training. They go through the same extensive training that you would think of as your medical practitioners. 10, 15, 20 years of training so that they can wield these plants with efficacy and purpose. And then I think you have to ask if you have a reason to utilize that plant. And the two ways that I've seen the plants used here in the most effective ways are as a true medicine or as a sacrament. And as a sacrament, the purpose of that is to be allowed the support in having direct communion with God. And so you have to ask yourself if that fits within your religious beliefs and if that fits within your health codes. And if it does, I think then in good conscience, you can allow yourself to have that experience and understand that there's a big difference between being prescribed a certain kind of medicine or participating in a certain kind of religious activity compared to utilizing those same tools for either a drug purpose or a recreational purpose. I would not consider the plant medicines that we use for recreational purpose. They're only used as a sacrament or as a healing medicine.
The ayahuasca vine wraps itself around other trees so it can reach the sunlight. And I thought how perfect that is, because that's the same thing that the medicine does for us. It helps us as human beings reach for the sunlight.
Ayahuasca is a tea made from different plants from the Amazon rainforest that grow indigenously here, mainly the ayahuasca vine and a leaf that's high in the chemical DMT. Typically here we use the plant from the plant chacruna. And you boil them all day long and reduce it down several times, and then you serve it in sort of a kind of like a viscous liquid as a tea. It's not like a set recipe like Coca-Cola. There are some lineages that just use the vine and the leaf, and there's others that use all these other different admixtures in their teas to add to the experience, to create support, spiritual support, and different types of physical healing as well. It's a mature flavor, and it's one to be respected, yes.
The jungle doctors, they call them shamans, they go through long apprenticeship periods, maybe even 20 years. And during that time, they do these things called dietas. And it basically means a diet. And what they do is they may eat just very limited, very bland foods, and then they'll drink these teas made of these plants over 1 to 2 weeks. It's excruciating because you're hungry, but you're accustoming your body to understanding and just kind of bringing that plant spirit into your intelligence so that then they can use these as their allies when they're in healing ceremonies with other people that are experiencing any sort of malady.
Taquitos, goodbye. Hello, jungle.
We have to be over at another hotel at about 8 a.m. in the morning. Hamilton will probably be there. We're all gonna hop on a tour bus with other participants in the retreat. They'll take us down to the marina, and at the marina we're gonna walk down this nice little gangplank. We're gonna get on these water taxis, and then we're gonna go about 45 minutes up the Amazon River, so we get to see the beautiful jungle. The river's very full right now, so we'll get to see the local people, what they're doing, how they live. And then after about 45 minutes of being on the boat, having our eardrums rattled back and forth from the waves and the sound of the motor, we're gonna pull up to the Heliconia Resort. We'll probably walk up a little bit of ladder, and then we'll be there in the Heliconia Resort, which is beautiful. It's a nice little sanctuary. We'll relax. Hamilton will talk to us and sort of orient us. We'll get checked into our rooms. And then around 5 o'clock, they'll call us into the Maloka, which is the ceremonial house. And then the ceremony will begin. Hamilton has a process that he'll take us through depending on what he intuits, depending on how much he gives us. Usually he likes to say that for the first night it's a handshake. So give a bit of a less dose so that people, they get to know the medicine, they get to know the space. And then by 10 o'clock that night, we'll be wrapped up. We'll be having a very different conversation. Ramiro, Ezra, will probably, our heads will be like expanded. Whoa, what was that? What was happening? We may want to go out to the pool just to like sit there, eat some bananas under the stars and talk and just kind of bond and connect with each other. Who knows, but that's what's on the docket for tomorrow.
Trongo manda zetoini yana yana yawa.
The way that the ceremony progresses is you go through different phases. So you drink the tea. Usually for me, it's about a 30 to 45 minute wait. And then onset happens. This is when you start feeling the effects. Typically, you'll have really strong visuals, so your vision will blank out. You'll see all sorts of really strong shapes and folding patterns on each other.
When you first drink it, there's this slow coming on of the kind of the body sensations and these like lights and shapes and colors start coming on in your perception and awareness until literally the entirety of your field of view is just this kaleidoscopic, hyper clear rainbow geometry, pixelized geometry moving around, and it's in motion. And
it can feel pretty overwhelming to the nervous system. It can feel overwhelming to the visual system. And the purpose of that, and like what you got to do there, is what I found works for me, is just releasing, relaxing, just trying to breathe and relax.
It's interactive. You get a sense that it's intelligent, and things come in and out of your visions that can be important to you, or different kind of archetypes and shapes and colors and even beings come out of these shapes and patterns and interact with you. They don't feel like hallucinations in the classic sense of the word. They feel like they're meaningful and not a figment of mental illness. They can be very powerful in their imagery and meaning for each different person, and sometimes just a vision of something, of a relative or something that happened in your life can be very potent to start triggering things within yourself to start having these potent internal experiences.
When you get through the onset, then you get into what Hamilton calls the medicine space, which is where your consciousness expands, which is where you can make God contact, which is where you're getting revelations, you're learning about yourself. And then after that, you come down, and the landing can be anywhere from immediate to probably 12-hour landing.
I think the greatest gift is the ability for deep introspection and to know yourself at a much deeper level than we're normally allowed in our daily life. I think through that profound depth that you gain the capacity to be a better version of yourself.
I've always been a type A person. It's always been like go, 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 drive, 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 get up at 4:30 in the morning, go work out at the gym. We have 6 kids, my wife, I'm a business owner, so there's all these responsibilities. And last night in the ceremony, it kind of settled on me like how exhausted I am. I'm just tired, my soul's tired. And so there was this element of the ceremony where God, Spirit was communicating and said, hey Enoch, this is your life. If you want to live your life completely resting, if you want to go surf on the beaches and hang out in a surf shack in Costa Rica, like you can do that, right? Or not. But the important part is the message that I got is like rest is important and it's okay. Because there was a part of me that thought like I always have to be doing something. And if you talk to my wife, she'll say absolutely this is true. We go on vacation. I last about 2 days, and after that I'm like I got to get back to work. So there's this ability to have this permission to be okay not actually doing something, just being. And that's super exciting because when you're always wanting to achieve something and do something, there's this restlessness that's in your heart. So that was definitely a major message that I got last night as well, was the idea of, hey, rest is okay. You could go through this whole life just hanging out by the beach, and that would be perfectly okay.
The ayahuasca was trying to help me sort of release, not just in the physical sense, but in the mental sense. And I don't know, I'm just thinking about maybe a career change, not right after I get back, but like just wrapping my head around that, because I've known that I don't necessarily enjoy what I do. So I'm hoping that for the rest of the ceremonies, for the other ceremonies, that there will be some less purging so I can focus more on the experience and not worrying about where my puke and my shit's gonna go.
Well, I've always said that it's serious enough in its own right that we don't have to act more serious about it. I think one of the great gifts that I received early on was that the Great Spirit and divinity that's found within the experience loves love and loves joy. It allows us an opportunity to unlock that. We have to get past some of our own fears and self-imposed limitations to do so. But as we do that, we're granted this tremendous capacity for levity and a kind of true joy that emanates from the heart in a very pure way. And it's a tremendous gift.
One of the things that I loved about the Amazon is that you can't escape nature. No matter where you are, you're surrounded by it. And so just being able to look up and see the beauty of the trees and see the sunlight filtering down and look into the water and just see life everywhere. Just realizing that Mother Nature is built to survive, but we as humans, we have an impact.
Break it and release like a natural cotton.
As I sat there and watched this sloth slowly crawl down the tree, I thought about my insights from the previous night, this hustle and grind culture that I've bought into, of being always in a rush to get somewhere, always in a rush to get to the next goal, and just thinking about how these trees and these animals, they live here year after year after year.
It's like a meat. The cassava, this one's for
You know, I look back on my early life and I can see that I'm walking around with blind eyes and closed ears. And so it feels like this ayahuasca accelerating the experience of me being able to open up my eyes to the beauty and to the joy that's right here, right now. One thing that I practiced last night was self-love, just over and over again, catching myself whenever I'm having negative self-talk and almost speaking to myself in the third person saying, hey, Enoch, it's all right, you're good. You know, you'll make it through this, and just practicing that, allowing my heart to open and connecting with my heart, connecting with this source of love that's in me, and allowing that to just grow instead of having to shut it down, instead of having to be defensive, but allowing it to grow and expand out into my body. And there was one point where I was laying down and the medicine was really strong and I was just feeling my body, just touching my arms very gently and just giving gratitude and love to my legs and to my arms and to my face, and just the gratitude for simply being alive. More and more I'm starting to have joy in the moment, in what this experience is right now. Because if I'm truly an eternal being, then these experiences are going to go on for infinity. Why not just enjoy the one that I'm living right now at this very moment? And it's a beautiful thing. And I'm just so, so very grateful. I've experienced enormous healing so far in just the first 2 days of this ayahuasca retreat. We're here to do the work. It's not easy. This is not some miracle drug. It's something that facilitates, and it will only take you as far as you're willing to go. It will only meet you where you're willing to meet it.
I was quaking, sweating, crying, snot coming out of my nose. Then once I was sort of done purging, headed back to my mat and just got to relax a little bit more, listen to Hamilton and just focus on the messages. And what they've been saying the whole time is that, you know, it's all about love and energy and the universe and source. And if there's something inside me, that I'm all for that blossoming, blooming, and so I tried to focus on that, but I was having a really hard time, and I just couldn't last night, right? I just felt that I had made the choice to turn my inner self off so much in my life that I couldn't last night, right? And so in the coming ceremonies, I'm going to focus on trying to just relax and accept and let myself bloom, let myself grow, let myself shine, and not fight as much.
On day one, I had too many intentions. That, you know, there was just a lot going on, many different subjects. On day two, since I didn't see my son, the day one, my intention was to see him, you know, to encounter him. Once I got over the weird landscapes and, you know, fears and, you know, the dark place that the maestro took us, I started to, you know, wake up into this other area. And then once I confronted all my fears about my son, I realized that there is nothing there for me to fear, you know, that he's going to be, you know, a great person. And I saw him as a little baby, I saw him as he is now, and I saw him as an adult. maybe in his 30s, something like that. I didn't see his face, but then we just hugged each other, and all the fears of me raising my son a certain way were gone. But I did realize that I can't push, myself into him too much, or how I want him to be. So I think the realization on day 2 was basically that.
So in the morning after breakfast, we went on a jungle walk, which I did last time, but again, going there this time was so powerful. Jorge was our guide, and Lucio was there as well, 2 of the guides that work here at the Heliconia Lodge, and they are an encyclopedia of natural information. So they talked about the different medicinal plants, they talked about what they're used for. We got to learn about some medicinal plants that are used for aphrodisiacs, and I was kind of wondering where I could get myself some of that. They talked about how they use some for treating diabetes, diarrhea, sexually transmitted diseases, and all these things come from the bark or the plants, and it just blows my mind that there's this rich pharmacopoeia of these natural plants that God has given us that have these impacts on our bodies to heal us and help us to be the best version of ourselves. After we went on the jungle walk, had an amazing lunch. Lunch was delicious. Had some catfish and some amazing heart palm and some wonderful tomatoes, and the fruit and the vegetables here just taste so beautiful. After that, it was about time to head over on the boat journey. We headed out to the Amazon, and it was cold, so we all had to wear jackets. I had my windbreaker on. We tried looking for some pink dolphins in this little lake, and as we got into the lake, our guide pointed out how there's these plants, and these plants have started to clog up the lakes. Typically, the manatees, because nature is a system here, the manatees would eat these plants. And that then allows the lakes to be clear, which then allows the fish to get sunlight, and it helps the ecosystem. But he said that the manatees taste very delicious, and so the locals over time have killed most of the manatees to where they're not really around anymore. And as a result of this, now all these waterways are getting choked with these plants on the surface, which makes it difficult for the local villagers to take their boats in to these areas. It also decreases the availability of fish, and so it has a major impact on the ecosystem. Just one small example of how when we start to get out of balance, nature can start to be impacted. On the way back, there's this beautiful sunset, absolutely beautiful. Peeking behind the clouds, we can see these beautiful crepuscular rays peeking out from the clouds. And as I was sitting there and just watching the sun filter through the clouds, it just felt like this cosmic divine gift, this cosmic stamp of love, as we could see the blue sky beyond the clouds, almost like this celestial vision. And I thought, you know what? In the ayahuasca, yes, we see visions, but everywhere around me is a vision. All I need to do is open my eyes, and I can see that there's the most glorious vision right in front of me every single day. Ezra
just
brought
fun.
the underwear to match, huh? Like it, I like it.
It's just I just like fun socks and fun underwear.
I love it, man. Mine are all boring. Mine are just gray. See, they're just gray. Just gray underwear. No cool patterns on mine.
No boob UFOs.
I need to figure out
like aliens going at it.
Oh man, you got boob UFOs? I gotta figure out where to get. Oh, aliens in the yab yum position. Oh, that's the doggy style standing. Wow.
Yep. So
oh yeah,
reverse
69.
cowgirl with the prairie dogs. And
Oh
the
yeah. Oh
doggy style,
jeez.
yeah.
Okay. That's inspiration, man. I love it. I love it. Nice. As my energies were being raised, I was releasing all sorts of these negative energies, I'll say, with things like me taking myself so seriously, wanting to do things for the validation of other people, me not believing and not trusting in myself. Hamilton was actually walking us through, and he would call out one of these things, and when he would call out one of these things, like for instance, taking ourselves so seriously, I would feel a little blockage, a little stop in my body, and I would say, okay, whoa, that's a thing for me. And so then the only way that I was able to release that is I had to surrender. So I just had to release. And when I mean surrender, I mean completely trust God. like trust God in a way that it's not an intellectual trusting, but it's an energetic releasing of just like, okay, God, you got this. And the way that I got through it was that God was there, Hamilton was there, other participants were there, and they were showering love on me. I felt their love. And so when I started to get destabilized or I started to feel scared, I would center on that love. I would listen to Hamilton's voice, and I would just breathe through my nose and just slow down my body, breathe, breathe, breathe. And as I relaxed and relaxed and relaxed, my visions would change. So the ayahuasca was like the ayahuasca somehow was communicating with me that when I finally got to a state of surrender, completely relaxed, and I let this blockage go, my field of vision would change. And it's hard to describe. It looked like geometric rainbow patterns. And when I found myself to the place of surrender to release these negative thought patterns and negative programming, the field would get kind of blurry and it would soften. And it was sort of like the ayahuasca felt like it was communicating to me like, well done, you did that one. And then I would be exhausted. And so this is where I felt like I needed to rest. So I would just rest, relax, relax, relax. And then I would go into something else that I had to purge. And sometimes I would have to, if it wasn't coming out just by relaxing, I would have to vomit, I would have to purge it out. That happened a couple times. But fortunately, I found the ability just to surrender and to release into it.
So after we took the medicine, and just sitting on my mat, like I literally went through and visualized all of my personal relationships, right? So I imagined my children, imagined my soccer team, imagined people at work, imagined my family, right? Like just picturing their faces in my mind to try to hopefully call on them and help me during the experience. But I don't remember that having any effect at all. But I started seeing the shapes, like the geometric, the fractals and stuff, like close my eyes, open my eyes, pitch black, so I saw them both ways. I imagined a vision like beings next to me that were like reaching out to help me, and I was like, sweet, it's happening. Then towards the end of that, after a while of medicine, I had the same disorienting feeling coming again. And so I was like, all right, I've already purged, I don't need to go back to the bathroom, I'm just gonna sit here and try to take deep breaths and just try to relax through it and let it happen and see where it goes, because that's what I really wanted to explore, was that feeling, but without the fear and anxiety of what was going on with my body.
So for me, the purging was intense. I was not having a good time during it because, you know, who does? When you're puking your guts out and your thoughts and feelings and, you know, negativity, you know, that's part of the process. It's painful, but it happened, and I'm glad it did, because I really feel cured, you know, of all that stuff, you know, many things. Then after that, you know, he invoked Jesus and Buddha, and again, you know, I out loud said Buddha, which again, it was something that was for me unexpected, because, you know, I've been Christian all my life, you know, I've been Catholic all my life. But I think the realization was that, at least for me, that there needs to be more of an integration, you know, with the faiths. I think through, you know, history and everything else, we distort that a lot. You know, we make it fit our own, you know, our own ways, whatever that is. You know, I'm not going to criticize, you know, centuries of religion, but I can tell you the divisions last night that I had was that there is a God, you know, beyond Jesus and beyond Buddha, and they're both very important people, and I'm going to keep Jesus, you know, because he's been my guide all this time. But at the same time, if anybody from my family or anybody wants to explore other, you know, religion like Buddhism, I just can't criticize, you know, I can't. And then we started like in the healing, telling us that our souls belong to us, not to anybody, you know, not to social media, not to, you know, religion, not to, you know, governments. That our souls belong to us. And then we can make, you know, whatever we want of our soul. And that's day 3, you know.
I think when somebody makes a conscious choice that their religion serves them, they can look at their relationship with the religion and look for where there's inconsistencies or disharmonies, where anything is out of balance within their understanding of the teachings and in their own behavior. And often that's part of the religious experience, is learning how to deal with the light and the dark within somebody so that they can be more aligned to the tenets and principles found within their religion. And these kinds of ceremonies can help somebody through that direct experience move beyond difficulties in their belief and faith. It can help somebody move beyond the difficulties that they have societally and communally in terms of their religion, often in their families. It can help them better understand how to navigate with their partners or with their children their own religious convictions and the importance of their faith. It can also help people understand the truth behind the teachings. Often the teachings are difficult to understand, and when you experience them through direct communion, it makes it much easier to understand. I've supported many people in helping align their relationship with Jesus Christ. Many people who felt that that had become an abstraction and something that was hard for them to relate to. And many people have come through our ceremonies and have had the direct experience of the presence of Jesus Christ. And it has offered them the opportunity to align in their love and relationship. And so I think that through all of those mechanisms, we support somebody better understand who they are within their religion and how they can also be a better supporter and leader of their community.
On Friday's excursion, I was sat next to a guy named Tommy who earlier in the week had told me something really profound about the importance of being our authentic selves, about being able to be us fully while at the same time respecting other people. I have a special place in my heart for snakes. Oddly enough, when I was in college, my younger brother David had a collection of snakes, including a couple of ball pythons and a red-tailed boa constrictor. My stepmom hated snakes, and so she made him give them away, and so I took in the boa constrictor with me back to college all the way across the country. Today, snakes are feared, and a lot of people get really scared about snakes, but in mythology, snakes actually are seen as healers and protectors and a symbol of the divine feminine. We can see this even in the Old Testament and the Bible, where Moses has the people look upon a staff with a brazen serpent. After that, had the opportunity to hold a beautiful little sloth that just cuddled up on me like a little baby.
Last night, one of the messages I got is like God was like, over and over and over again, I will provide for you. I will provide for you. I have you. I will provide for you. You're safe. You're safe. You're safe. And it was so hard to just release the fear, release the anxiety about not being provided for. And it was like, God was like, that's the message. You guys, humans, you guys are safe. You're here. You know, like Earth is here to provide for you. You're safe. And just like letting that message really seep into my psyche. There were so many blocks, so much fear that I had to just release, and it was hard. It was hard to release that fear and just to open myself up to the truth that we, all of us, humanity, we are provided for. We have to work with the earth. We can't work against it. Just knowing that, yeah, God was like very patient with me and just saying, hey, have you. See you, brother. Love you. I'm love. I'm love. I'm love.
For me, the takeaway is I probably need to work on meditating for that type of psychedelic experience to be able to enter a sort of trance state, a very focused state, because I think I was very distracted by my bodily sensations, because it was honestly pretty rough when it was happening, right? Like even the last day, I was like, my stomach doesn't feel great. I'd really rather not do this, but I spent a lot of money. I'm here. It's not going to happen for another time, so let's do it.
I think I came out with one thing, and one thing very clear, that we need to love God, because love and God is everywhere. Earth is here for us. It nurtures us. It gives us resources. It gives us sanctuary. It gives us life. So we need to respect it. We need to do better with it. As a professional in the field of architecture, I think that's very profound, because we do manipulate the built environment, sometimes on a very vast scale. So we got to rethink how we do things.
Ceremony 4, I didn't do any purging, which felt good. However, I was feeling nauseous the whole time, so I had to do a lot of breathing, a lot of relaxing to not have to purge, to not have to vomit, because I definitely didn't want to do that. So the more I relaxed, the more I felt like this vibration was just going into all my body, and I don't know what it was doing, but I felt intense feelings of love. I was being aware of the fear that I have in my life that affects so many things, just financial considerations of working with business partners and perhaps not being as generous as I could be, not being as generous to my family or my wife as I could be. When I know that the universe provides for me, it opens up more abundance for me. It allows me to just release, relax, and be more liberal with my resources, liberal with how I use this world's good to serve and to live my best life.
Sometimes we get so carried on looking down, that we forget to look up. So that's pretty much it. It was a life-changing experience. I want to thank Enoch for asking me to come, and for my wife, and for her support of letting me be here a whole week with some dudes. But I think she knew it was for the better. I think she knew that I was going to come out of this whole thing as a new person, and I am. I'm going to call myself from this point forward Romero 2.0, because that's what it's going to be, an improved version of me.
I could sense and I could see the light that my own body emanates. So I was seeing like these celestial white lights. I saw some fire. Part of my vision would be obscured, sort of like black cloudy darkness. And I would begin to get a little apprehensive. But I could understand, my understanding was that the ayahuasca was showing me that darkness exists in life and sort of teaching me how to maintain connection to spirit, how to maintain connection to love, even despite all the scary things that are happening in the world. And so my main intention of the week, not only understanding God and answering a lot of the questions I have about my religion, my faith, and my walk, was how can I actually become the kind of person who starts to have the results because of who I'm being. So if I had to summarize this entire week and last night, it feels like it was a rest to my soul. It feels like I got a deep, deep, deep rest. I'm walking away from this experience more excited about my church membership than ever before, more grateful for what Joseph Smith did, despite all the things that people say about Joseph and all the mistakes that he made. The pure truth that he revealed that's so evident in the Book of Mormon, in the revealed scriptures, and these principles are so powerful. So it's given me a lot more excitement for that. It's given me a lot more excitement to go back and serve in my local ward, make sure I'm doing my ministering, and remembering to minister to the one. The Spirit told me that part of my work of maintaining this love is making sure that I'm fulfilling those quiet responsibilities that don't get loud applause, that aren't seen by other people, so that I get the joy and peace of doing that, which is really Heavenly Father's gift to anyone, no matter your station in life. If I were to boil it down like an ayahuasca tea of brew and boil off all the unnecessary things, I would say that I would agree with those people who say God is love.
As we're headed back to Iquitos, I'm staring out the side of the boat at the tropical foliage going past, and I'm having this moment where I'm remembering one of my favorite lines from a Hollywood movie, Platoon by Oliver Stone. It's where the very last scene, as the character that Martin Sheen plays is headed back in a helicopter, and he has this monologue where he says something along the lines of, "I think now looking back, we did not fight the enemy, we fought ourselves. The enemy was in us." And as I'm sitting there watching the palm trees and beautiful Amazonian forest go by, I'm thinking that in the past, the battle that I've been fighting hasn't been against an external enemy. It's been me fighting against the enemy within myself. And ultimately coming to the realization with there's different parts of me, and one part is not more acceptable or better than the other part. All parts of me are welcome to the table. And this is the definition of self-love, realizing that I am a human being. And part of my journey here on earth is discover and experience what it's like to be fully human.